Now we're going to address some general commands, and these are commands that just help us to be more productive, and we can use these very frequently at the terminal, and they perform a variety of functions. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first one is clear, C-L-E-A-R, and essentially this just clears our screen. So if we had a screen with a lot of commands we previously typed and we just want to blow everything away and start over, clear would reset all of that, clear the screen and bring the cursor back up to the top. Next is date. Okay, so date is pretty handy. You type in date and you get the date being displayed to you, so quick and convenient way to find the date. The next command we want to address is find. How do I locate a file? There are many different ways to do this in Linux. grep is potentially the most robust way, but it is very detailed and you have to put a lot of options. But an easy way to locate a file is using find, and you want to put in, next argument would be where you are starting from on the file system to look for a file. Then you're going to put in -name and then type in the name of the file. So I am just going to do here Raspy asterisk. So basically what I'm telling the system here is find, starting from the root folder, a file that starts with Raspy and anything can come after, and the -name argument says look for a file with a name that has Raspy and star, and it's going to do that for me. So I'm going to hit enter here, and as you can see, it went through my entire file system and it returned to me the name Raspy preceding the name of any file that was on my system. So if I'm looking for something that's extremely specific and I know the exact name of the file, I can just put find and that name of the file, and it would return that file for me. So very, very handy feature there. Next, let's look at quickly how we can create a file and edit it in GUI editor that is offered by the terminal, and that's called Nano. So let's say we want to create a file. I'm going to do Nano. The name of our file, let's say it's test.txt, and it's going to open up this GUI editor for us. And in here you can type the text of your file. I'm going to type something in here. Okay, and once I'm done editing, notice there are some shortcut keys that are displayed below here that would allow you to save and exit and so on. So I'm going to hit here Control X. It's going to ask me, do I want to save these changes? So I can just hit the Y key. Okay, and file name to write test.txt. I just hit enter and it's going to save that file for me. To view that file, I'm going to type in ls. Okay, and as you can see, we're going to talk about ls a little bit later, but that file that we created, test.txt, you'll see it show up here and it was saved to our file system. So that is how we're able to quickly create a file with a GUI interface that's provided by the terminal, and it's called Nano. If I want to edit that file again, I just do Nano and the name of the file, and as you can see, it comes back up. So I can change it, modify it, and then save my changes appropriately. The next command is the Raspy config command, and this allows us to edit configuration settings for our Raspberry Pi. In order to run it though, we need super user privileges, so it's sudo raspy-config that we have to type in. And this allows us to change a lot of settings on our Raspberry Pi. If you remembered from our earlier videos, we were able to do this from the Raspberry Pi desktop itself. And let me quickly show you. When you click on the Raspberry icon, go down to Preferences and Raspberry Pi Configuration. This brings up more of a graphical interface to edit some of the same settings on the Raspy config command, and it's a little more user-friendly, but essentially it does the same thing. However, in the Raspy config application, there are some additional settings that you can tweak. So in here, we could do things like if you want to change the password, okay, for the user, it's asking me to enter the new password, so I am going to do that now. Okay. Alright, and it tells me that the password was successfully changed, and I hit enter, and that's the way I can change the password on my system. Next, you can change some options like host name. For instance, the name of my Raspberry Pi is just Raspberry Pi, and that's what's set up as default, but we can change this and tweak this if we need to, and we want to expose a different host name on our network for the Raspberry Pi. I am just going to leave this as is for now. And then there are some other options on here, like the localization options, which we already covered. Advanced options, I'm going to go in here. As you can see, you can expand the file system. You can set if the audio comes through the HDMI or if it comes through the headphone jack and so on. Those are some settings and configurations you can tweak and so on. So very handy, the Raspy config application. Just by typing in sudo raspy config, we're able to get to that application. Another useful command that we can do is to restart or reboot our Raspberry Pi. So if we just type in reboot and hit enter, I'm not going to do it actually, it's just going to recycle our Raspberry Pi and start everything over. If we want to shut down our Raspberry Pi, you type in shutdown, okay, and you can put in a parameter -h now and hit enter, and that's gonna shut our Pi down completely right now. So I'm not gonna do that, but that's what that command does. There's also some flexibility with the shutdown command, as you can specify when you want the Pi to shut down. So let's say I want it to shut down at 1:30 in the morning, 1:30 a.m. I can just type in shutdown space -h 01:30 and hit enter, and at 1:30 a.m. let's go ahead and I'm going to hit enter here. It's going to schedule that, so at 1:30 my Pi will shut down automatically on its own. So those are some basic general commands that are very handy, and hopefully they would make you a little bit more productive on your Pi, and those are some commands that are good to know.